And hello YouTube, it's Thomas Judge back once again with another YouTube video, and this one's a reading guide, slightly different to some of my other reading guides. This was a bit more ad hoc and a bit more of kind of a freestyle one without a real script or anything like that. Just something that I thought I might share with my subscribers. So basically this is a reading guide for the Ta-Nehisi Coates run of Black Panther. I'll provide a bit of context here. The reason that I'm doing this reading guide is mainly because of a channel called Name It Condition. So I'll show that here. This is a guy called Omar who runs a channel. Amazing guy, amazing channel. This is the place to go for breaking comic news. If you're into comic books and you have the internet, and obviously both of those things are true if you're watching this video, then please subscribe to Name It Condition. It's amazing. He will give you all the updates and all the breaking news on what's coming out and when it's coming out. He even has a direct hookup with Marvel, so he finds out literally as soon as it happens when a new Marvel omnibus, a new Marvel collector's edition is coming out. In fact, it's announced on his channel officially. That's how official his hookup with Marvel is. So on that note, what you can see here is the announcement that he did, which was specifically for a new Black Panther omnibus. Now, this is called the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates Omnibus. It's got these issues in it. It's coming out, I think, in early 2022, and it got me really, really excited. Very soon after that, he also announced a second omnibus, which you can see here. He announced this about a week or so later. This is the second part of the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. This is called the World of Wakanda Omnibus. It's got all these issues you can see here. If you want a full breakdown of this, carry on watching this video or go to the Name It Condition channel. I'll try and put the links in the description and watch those videos for a full breakdown. In a nutshell, the minute these got announced, I got really excited. I'm a big fan of pre-ordering my comics. I think it's a good way of supporting the industry and highlighting that you're going to make purchases, as well as saving money as well. So I was planning on pre-ordering them on Amazon. But one thing that I try to do quite a lot when it comes to pre-ordering stuff is before I pull the trigger and actually pre-order something, if I can, I'll read the floppies first. I mean, I have access to a lot of floppies, as some of my subscribers know. A friend of mine opens and runs a secondhand comic book shop, so I can access quite a lot of stuff. So if I get a chance, I'm like, well, I'll actually read the issues and see if it's worth buying. Now, Black Panther, I had really high hopes, and I was like, this is meant to be an amazing run. It's critically acclaimed. I love the character of Black Panther, so I'm almost certainly going to get it. But given I've got some time, why don't I read the run? And that's what I did. And when I did read the run, I made some really important discoveries in terms of A, whether or not it's as good as the hype, and B, also how it's been mapped in these omnibuses. And I figured I would share that with you guys, my subscribers. By whom I mean the 3 or 4 human beings that follow my show, and not the several hundred Russian bots that appear to constantly spam me every time I drop a video. But for you, 3 or 4 people, this one's for you. So, quick overview Black Panther. He's a character we know from the Marvel movie. He's really cool. He had his own series in the 90s and the noughties as well. Lots of pros and cons to him. I always kind of enjoyed him, but to be honest, I really fell in love with him once Chadwick Boseman did the film. His depiction was fantastic. The movie was brilliant. Big fan of it. Um, Ironically, the Black Panther comics kind of fizzled out in 2010. I think the last series ended in 2010. And although he did cameo in a bunch of things, including Hickman's Avengers, Black Panther, the character, was kind of always in the background or kind of a liminal Marvel Universe character, at least for the last 10 or so years. In comes Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now, Ta-Nehisi Coates is an American guy. He's an author and a journalist. He became popular as a national correspondent for something called The Atlantic, which is apparently a big deal over in America. And that's where he wrote about lots of sort of cultural, social, political issues, specifically with respect to African Americans and the African American experience and with white supremacy. So he talked a lot about race. And he's also worked for a lot of other big names like Time Magazine and New York Times and the Washington Post and a few others, I think. I don't know, you can always Google it if you're interested. Basically, he's a big deal. He's published 3 non-fiction books, one of which won the 2015 National Book Award for non-fiction. And he's well known as a powerful, intelligent voice when it comes to speaking about politics and social racial commentary in America. What does that mean? Well, in 2016, Coates became the writer of the 6th volume of Marvel Comics' Black Panther series. And this teamed him with the artist Brian Stelfreeze. Now, let's keep in mind, Coates had never written any comics before, so I can imagine at the time this was quite a divisive thing about him just being appointed as being the writer of what pretty much a flagship Marvel title now. Having said that, I think he's a good choice. I think it's important to have diversity in the writing background for people writing behind the scenes and drawing behind the scenes. But we'll get more into whether he was any good or not in a moment. The critics spoke. The critics said it was critically acclaimed. It was amazing. Issue 1 sold roughly, I think, 250,000 physical copies, which makes it the best-selling comic book for the month of April 2016. And the entire run was massively critically acclaimed. He did the first run, which was like I say, the 6th volume of the Black Panther series, and he then followed that straight away with the next volume. And by volume, I mean like it renumbered from issue 1 again. And he then was doing that. And then when that started in 2018, he also took over the Captain America series as well, which I haven't read, but I will. So with all that background out of the way, what I wanted to share with you guys was this. Now, this is my reading map for the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther run. Now, it looks a bit different to my normal ones. I know all my reading maps all look slightly unusual and unique, and there's a reason for that because every comic series is unusual and unique. But what I want to show you here is what's collected where. So to start off with, this was the first omnibus that we saw Omar announce on his channel. This is the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates omnibus. You can see here the issues it collects, and it also collects the 2016 series and the 2018 series. That's fine. And I put a border of it in blue so you can see which issues those are on this map. They're the ones in blue, which you can see all across here and all across here. In other words, they're the vertical runs. In the bottom left, we can see the Wakanda World of Wakanda omnibus for Black Panther with the collection. It also says all the different issues that are in here. It looks really complicated, but I'll break it down in a second. And it has all those issues there. And this is what the cover is going to look like. I've outlined it in pink, and the reason for that is that the issues in the series that are involved in that are here in pink. They're the ones that are horizontal. So if you're paying attention, you can obviously see that this is not straightforward. It's not like the blue issues are the first part and the pink issues are the latter part. No, this entire reading order is scattered in a really confusing way, and the omnibus is actually, both of them, are actually kind of mismapped. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do something I don't normally do, which I'm going to exclusively talk about this in terms of the order you should read them in, which is pretty much the chronological order. This is not the order they were released in, and the reason for that is that when Black Panther was originally released, which is the issue we can see at the top here, the start of the 2016 run, when that was released, that was just Ta-Nehisi Coates writing that. What he then did is when he went on to some of the other ones, he started writing, or as we'll see, being involved in rather than writing, a bunch of other series at the same time. And that was roughly at this time, sort of 2017. However, those series were set here, much, much, much earlier on. Similarly, if we go to the second blue column here, so this is the 2018 one of Black Panther that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote. We'll see here it continues for 4 volumes, and roughly sort of in this middle area while this was being published, all these issues came out. These pink ones you can see here. Even though these pink ones are all set very clearly before the 2018 run, they came out during the 2018 run. So it's all a bit of a pain in terms of following it. I mean, fortunately, I don't really read up-to-date floppies. So I was in quite a lucky position that I didn't have to read this as it was coming out, because I would have got confused as hell. As it is, I've been reading them as trade paperback collections and a Marvel Unlimited and through a few floppies and stuff. And this is basically the order in which you should read them in. Now, I'll talk it through in just a second, but before we start, I'll just talk about what's actually in the omnibus. So let's look at the first omnibus by Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's got the first collection here, which is called A Nation Under Our Feet, Book 1. That collects 4 issues. In other words, it's really slim and it's a bit of a rip-off. This one here, with the manifold in the background, the sort of exploding yellow light around it, that is A Nation Under Our Feet, Book 2, collecting issues 5 to 8. Again, very slim, not very good value. And then this one here with a really cool cover is A Nation Under Our Feet, Book 3, collecting issues 9 to 12. That then goes on to this issue here, which you can see, which is called Avengers of the New World. That's Book 1 of that, which collects issues 13 to 18. So 6 issues now, which is a slightly more sensible amount to have in a trade paperback given the price. And that then moves smoothly on to this cover here, which is Avengers of the New World Collection 2. Now, the thing about this is this collects issues 166 to 172. That can confuse a lot of people. The way to look at this is that it's to do with legacy numbering, which I mentioned before in some previous videos, and one day I'll do a dedicated video just on it. But in other words, if you look at the collection above, which is issues 13 to 18, you have issues 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then the next issue is issue 166, which came out the next month. Okay, so this volume here with the claw punching Black Panther, that is issues 166 to 172. That's the first half of the blue omnibus, the Black Panther Ta-Nehisi Coates omnibus. It then skips all this pink stuff in the middle and moves straight over here, which is where you get the 2018 volume of Black Panther, again written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Now, this is 25 issues. The first collection here you can see is called the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda Book 1, issues 1 to 6. Second volume here, Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda Volume 2, issues 7 to 12. Here, where you've got Storm in the cover as well, and they're kind of coming home as triumphant return. That's called Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda Part 3, issues 13 to 18. And then here, this picture on the cover here, which kind of looks familiar to me. I don't know if that's a riff of Marvel Zombies or something else. I don't know. Feel free to comment in the comments below if you know. This is called Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda Collection 4, and that's got issues 19 to 25. It's worth pointing out, if you are familiar with the way these things work, if I just go all the way back up here and we look back at the press release, issues 23 to 25, it only contains the A stories. That basically means it contains the full issue, but those last three issues, issues 23, 24, and 25, all contain short backup standalone stories, which we'll come back to in a second. But it's worth noting that those backup stories, whilst they are in the trade collection, if you read it here, or the single issues, if you read them singly, those B issues, just the B stories of just a couple of short pages and self-contained stories, they're not going to be in the omnibus. Okay, so from that we can see where the main Ta-Nehisi Coates omnibus is, and that all makes sense. That's all the blue stuff. So what's all this pink stuff, and what's this one floating about over here? Well, as always, of course, I'm the guy that reads everything comprehensively myself. I hate going by other people's reading orders because everyone always gets it slightly wrong. So what I did is I read every single issue involved in this. Now, what that means is I started here, and what I discovered was Rise of the Black Panther, which I guess is sort of the main prequel here, refers to events that happened in this 2010 Marvel miniseries called Flags of Our Fathers. It's part of the Marvel Knights imprint. It's 4 issues long and is written by someone I've never heard of before called Reggie Hudlin. Now, you don't have to read this. You definitely don't have to read this. It's not connected in any of the omnibuses. That's why it's not on a blue or a pink background. And that's why it's got this dotted set of arrows. But just be aware, if you do read Rise of the Black Panther, it will mention see the events in Flags of Our Fathers, etc., etc. So if you're interested, you can read it. It's not a bad story. In fact, I remember reading it myself and I was thinking, oh, when did I read this? And I read it several months ago at the end of last year. Had to dig through all my old tweets to find out what I thought about it, to be honest. I kind of forgot it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Apparently, I thought it was quite good. This is a good time just to plug my Twitter handle. If anyone does want to follow me on Twitter, what I do is every day I just post a quick one-tweet review of whatever I'm reading. So it gives you a good idea of what I'm reading, what sort of videos I might be making in the future, what my interests are at the moment. It varies hugely. One day I might read DC, the next Marvel, the next Image, or whatever. But it's a good way to get an idea of what I'm doing and just engage, if you like. Anyway, back to the map here. So what we have is Rise of the Black Panther. Now, as a prequel to Rise of the Black Panther, there is a short series here written by Brian Edward Hill, who I'm a big fan of, great writer. And this is a 5-issue series called Killmonger. It's a really good series, actually, really good. It's tonally quite different to the rest of the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, but I really enjoyed it. The ending of it kind of sucks, and by that I mean the last 2 or 3 pages, because it kind of forces it to fit in with the Rise of the Black Panther you can see here. But then you have the Rise of the Black Panther. This is a 6-issue series, and you'll see here, as you can see, he's got Ta-Nehisi Coates' name on the cover. That, frankly, is bullshit. He had nothing to do with this. He's a consultant. So if you go into the credits, it says consultant Ta-Nehisi Coates. This was written by a guy called Evan Narcisse, and I imagine he's probably a little bit annoyed that he's not really getting much writing credit or the second writing credit here. But we'll see this happen again and again during the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. So moving on, Rise of the Black Panther is sort of the beginning part of the story with the Killmonger prequel as well. Then we have something called Black Panther and the Crew. Now, this actually came out in the middle of Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, and it gets referred to from his run, but it's definitely set before the run, like 10 years prior to that. It's a 6-issue series, and it was written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, but with Yona Harvey. So it's not fair that his name's in massive writing and hers is like this tiny little thing here. Slightly unfair, I think, but that's only me. And this is, if you collect the volume as a trade paperback collection, it's just called We Are the Streets. Published at the exact same time as Black Panther and the Crew, but set substantially later, is this miniseries here called Black Panther World of Wakanda. 6 issues, is written by Roxane Gay. You'd think it was co-written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's not at all. He's, again, the consultant on it. So again, slightly unfair, his name's so prominent and that is considered parts of his run. But having said that, the events are very closely linked to his run. In fact, like I think issue 3 or 4 here happens at the same time as issue 1 of his run. And so it's good to read it beforehand or roughly the same time as something. It'll make a lot of sense then. The trade collection, if you buy it, is actually called Dawn of the Midnight Angels. Like I say, that actually came out around about when these issues were coming out, even though it's set way before, which is kind of confusing. But there we are. Anyway, so there we go into the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, the stuff on the blue background, and that ends with this collection here, Avengers of the New World. At which point, it's important to read these issues, and this is the second half of that other omnibus, the one with the pink background that I'm talking about. So, first of all, we need to read an event called Wakanda Forever. This was 3 single issues that were all one-shots. It was Astonishing Spider-Man, Wakanda Forever, X-Men, Wakanda Forever, and Avengers, Wakanda Forever. That's the order to read them in. You can just find them on Marvel Unlimited if you're reading them virtually as well. You can also collect them with the cover you can see here on the map, which is the trade paperback collection that collects all 3 issues, plus the Black Panther Annual 1 for 2018. Nothing in this is written or consulted by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's all written by someone called Nnedi Okorafor. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Apologies if I got that wrong. So like I say, this contains the 3 one-shots for Wakanda Forever and the Black Panther Annual 1 one-shot. I will highlight that by showing you the cover here. And the thing about having the cover here is that the reason I'm showing you this is please don't get it confused with this other issue here, which came out around about the same time, which is a one-shot called The Sound and the Fury, which is a very similar cover in a lot of ways, let's be honest, it is, but what has nothing to do with the Ta-Nehisi Coates run and wasn't written by him or anyone affiliated to him. It's also not a very good one-shot, don't bother reading it. Given we're talking about things that came out at this time that were rubbish or not worth reading, I'm just going to highlight this. This is called Black Panther Soul of a Machine. It's an 8-issue series, which is digital only. You can find it on Marvel Unlimited. It came out in 2017 or 2018. Good God, this is awful. The entire thing is a product placement for Lexus, the automobile manufacturer, to the extent that essentially Black Panther saves the world, or rather T'Challa saves the world by building a Lexus and saying it's the best thing in the world ever. It's terrible. It's horrific. It's just, I'm only mentioning it to you so you don't waste your time reading it, but thank God it's not in the actual omnibus itself. Going back to the map here, what we can see is that the next thing is this volume called Black Panther Long Live the King, written by the same author as last time. Sort of, which I'll explain in just a second. It's a 6-issue series. However, if you're reading it, you should read issues 1, 2, and 5, which are written by Nnedi Okorafor. And then you should then read issues 3, 4, and 6, which is written by a guy called Aaron Covington. I don't know why it's done like that. I assume there was some kind of scheduling or publishing issues when it was coming out, but there we are. So this is what you should then read after Wakanda Forever. It refers to the events of Wakanda Forever, which is why you should read it in that order. And then following on from that, you have a series called Shuri, which refers to the events of Long Live the King. Now, Shuri is a 10-issue series collected in 2 collections that you can see here. The first one is called The Search for Black Panther. The second one is called 24/7 Vibranium. Now, the important thing to remember here is that they're written by the same person that wrote Long Live the King. You can see her name here in big writing, and obviously here she's joined by someone called Vita Ayala as well. The first collection here collects 5 issues. The next collection here collects issues 6 to 10, and these all set up where you end up with when you get to Ta-Nehisi Coates' next series of Black Panther here, the Intergalactic Empire. There's lots of stuff in these first couple of collections here for the Black Panther run that say see Shuri issue 4 or 5 or whatever. So it's really important that you read this beforehand, even though that's not quite how they were released in publishing order. Okay. I hope that makes sense, guys, because what that really tells me is that these omnibuses are completely messed up. What should have happened is everything here from Killmonger all the way across to Rise of the Black Panther and the Crew, World of Wakanda, and then these 5 volumes down to Avengers of the New World. That bit should have been collected as one omnibus, possibly with Flags of the Father, possibly not. Who knows, right? And then from from Wakanda Forever here, the rest of it should have been collected as a second omnibus. Like this pink bit going across here and this blue bit going down here. That would have made perfect sense. That would have been 2 omnibuses. Instead, what we have now is a blue omnibus. I'm calling it blue. That's obviously the color that I picked. But we have one omnibus here, which is the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, which is missing critical stuff beforehand and critical stuff in the middle, which is really annoying. And then if you have the second omnibus, the World of Wakanda one, it sets up for the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, but doesn't actually contain it. So once you read World of Wakanda, you'd be like, hang on, what's going on? You suddenly jump into all this stuff over here on the second pink block with Wakanda Forever and so on. It's frustrating, it's poor, it's just not a great way to set up omnibuses. You'll notice here we then have the rest of the second omnibus, the World of Wakanda omnibus. Um, I'm going to be honest, I've done something weird here, which I never normally do. I haven't read these issues. There's a mini-series here called Black Panther versus Deadpool, which I had a quick glance at and seemed tonally very different to Ta-Nehisi Coates' stuff. Because Ta-Nehisi Coates' stuff is very respectful to African culture, African heritage, kind of like intertwined throughout a DNA of the run. Whereas these 2 runs you're looking at here, Black Panther versus Deadpool and Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda, both seem to be much more standard kind of Marvel fare. That's not knocking them at all. I'm sure they're good, but they just seem tonally very dissonant to the Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff, and they appear to have nothing to do with him from an editorial or consultative perspective. If you're watching this and you read them and you're like, hang on, no, they really perfectly match his tone, please let me know in the comments and I will read them. I mean, I'll read them at some point, but from what I can see, these really seem a little bit dissonant and a bit jarring compared to the rest of Ta-Nehisi Coates' kind of style. Anyway, you got a Deadpool run here, Black Panther versus Deadpool, which is 5 issues, and then you have that is followed on by Black Panthers and Agents of Wakanda. Interestingly, here this is an 8-issue series. The first 6 issues are collected in this cover you can see here called Eye of the Storm, but issues 7 and 8 aren't collected anywhere apart from in this new World of Wakanda omnibus. So there we are. So if you want them, there we go. And there's also a few random things, King in Black and other issues which I also haven't read. Hang on, let's have a look. What's Omar saying here? Yeah, it consists of Venomverse, Marvel Comics 1000, Marvel Voices Legacy. Oh, and it's also got the B-side stories from that Black Panther run that we were talking about. I haven't read any of these extra spin-off one-shotty things. I don't know how much a King in Black story makes sense completely unrelated from the King in Black event. But hey, just so you know, that's what's here. Anyway, slightly longer video than I would have liked, guys, but hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that gives you some idea as to what the Ta-Nehisi Coates run is. This is how I'd recommend reading it. These are the volumes in the order I would recommend reading them in. It's not clear from the guides you see online. It's definitely not clear from the way that Marvel have mapped the omnibuses, which they've frankly done wrong. And I would really like it if some custom binders out there bought the 2 omnibuses, split them in half each, and then joined them up correctly the way that they should be done by mixing and mapping them. I'm not going to do that, and the reason is that I read the entire Ta-Nehisi Coates run, and I was actually quite disappointed. So it's not for me. It's not one that I found enjoyable. I didn't enjoy the art, the themes, the tone, the characterization. Shuri was quite disappointing as well, and frankly, it's just not for me. That's not to criticize the run. If you enjoy it, great, go for it. It's just not the sort of thing that I enjoyed, and I was a little bit disappointed by that. Which is another reason why I think it's always really important, rather than diving into the pre-order game, if you can vet things yourself and make up your own mind, I highly recommend it, unless you really are overwhelmingly confident something is for you. I was really, really stoked and excited for Black Panther. I thought it was going to be great. it's just not worth me pulling the trigger and actually buying myself. So thankfully, I had a lot of it digitally or from issues I borrowed from a friend. Um, cool. Anyway, random one-off reading order, guys. Hope you enjoyed. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and always please let me know what you think. And feel free to interact with me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge. And as always, support the channel by heading over to nogodsokings.com and checking out the prose novel that I've written that I'm publicizing on Amazon. There's 4 volumes. Each of them costs less than $1. First one's free if you're on Kindle Unlimited, and there's a free excerpt on the channel. Please do let me know in the comments below if you actually want me to put this map on the channel. I wasn't really, sorry, on the website. I wasn't really planning on doing that because it's a very simple, straightforward map, but I can do if you'd like it. As always, everyone take care, be safe, and until next time, stay classy.